Urban Meyer, but he really signed Tim Tebow to the tight end position. Wow, have you lost your mind, man? And he really benched James Robinson for just fumbling once. And he kicked one of his players. Dude is the biggest clown. Y'all want to know when the rise of the Jags started? Right here, baby. December 16th, when Urban Meyer was fired. They should have never hired that dumbass. Fuck Ohio State too. What's up, everybody? Hope we got a lot of Jags fans in here. You know, this video, I'm just gonna keep this one chill, civil, relaxed. You know, I'm not like that. You guys know how I am. Just usually keep my videos chill and relaxed. I never share my opinion, or I never share hate. Fuck the past. The rise of the Jags started when Trevor Lawrence was the first pick of the 2021 draft. And the Jags didn't really have an amazing 2021 season. People were saying, oh, he's a bust, blah, blah, blah. Well, he needs some more time in the league, and Urban Meyer was his head coach. So I think that's a pass. Trevor Lawrence did seem to turn the ball over a lot, which he was heavily criticized for, and the Jags finished 3-14. And as you know, thank the heavens, Urban Meyer was fired partway through the season, and eventually Doug Pederson was brought in as the Jacksonville Jags' new head coach. Now, this past season for Trevor Lawrence, he really showed that he was the first pick. He just needed an actual fucking coach. 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, really turned it around there. Average passer rating of 95.2 and had 4,100 passing yards. And he also added on 5 more rushing touchdowns. He showed he can do it all. He's a big guy. And he led the Jags on a phenomenal season, winning 6 of their last 7 games to win their division, beating the Titans twice and making the playoffs. And man, I'll have to make a video on the Titans. They're in trouble. They've been embarrassing. Now, the reason this season was just so amazing for the Jags is if you go back and look at the past 5 years, they only won more than 6 games one time, so they really just showed they could turn it around. They won 5 games, 6 games, 1 games, 3 games, and then they just jumped up to 9, won their division, and went to the playoffs and won a playoff game. Wow. And if you go back even further, for the past 15 years, this was only the Jags' 2nd winning season. They've shown they're really building something, they're really turning around, and also shows what a franchise quarterback does for a football team. Now, Trevor Lawrence has really shown a lot of development. I feel like turnovers may still be a little bit of a problem. You saw him against the Chargers. There was 4 interceptions in the first half. Now, I say this all the time. 2 of them were not his fault, but 2 of them definitely were. And there's also 1 game earlier this season where he fumbled 3 times, but it's not near as bad of a problem as it was his rookie season, and it's obviously not near as bad as someone like Dak Prescott's turnover problem. Lawrence has shown he can put the ball where it needs to be and accurately. He completed 66% of his passes, and he's also shown that he can get the ball out not only accurately but fast. He only took 27 sacks this season. That's less than 2 per game. His sophomore season, that's really good. I think how many sacks a quarterback takes is highly underlooked in this league. It's really important to look at it because a quarterback, you're like, oh, their offensive line is bad, or maybe they're just holding onto the ball for way too long and not finding open guys down the field when they're open. Staying on the topic of offense, next up we're going to talk about Travis Etienne. Everybody already knows this was coming. He played with Lawrence at Clemson for 3 years. All 3 years they made the college playoffs and they won 1 title together. He was a 25th pick in last year's draft, and he had an amazing rookie season, and him and Lawrence's chemistry is just amazing. It's just another example of a Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. We got Lawrence and Etienne. It's so good having that college chemistry and just bringing it to the NFL when you're both just studs. Etienne rushed for over 1,000 yards this season. He had 5 touchdowns. Now, the only down was that he had 3 fumbles, which isn't like a crazy amount, but it's certainly a amount to at least have a worry about, to keep that in the back of your mind. 3 fumbles, and his first one came in the first game of the season. He only had 4 rushing attempts, and one of them was a fumble, and I think that might have killed his confidence for the first 2 games. He didn't start until I believe about week 5, but it was kind of a rough start for Etienne, but he had an amazing rookie season. In new Jags OC, Press Taylor and Pederson, they both did a great job at utilizing all their players' talent. They used Etienne's speed and agility all the time with dump-off, screens. Etienne out of the backfield was a real weapon. He had over 300 receiving yards this season. Etienne had over 300 receiving yards and over 1,100 rushing yards without starting the first 5 games of the season. Next season should be crazy. The next offensive player we're looking at is Christian Kirk. 1,100 yards this season, 8 touchdowns, had a huge breakout season with Lawrence. phenomenal player. First year in Jacksonville, was on Arizona for 4 years when he was drafted in 2018. Had just mediocre seasons, 500 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns, whatever, but he really broke out this season and he was a real weapon. Next is Zay Jones, another phenomenal wide receiver, having just another breakout year. It's just an example of how the Jags coaching staff has taken talent, found talent, and made them even better and really found ways to utilize their talent. Jones was drafted by the Bills in 2017, was on the Bills for 4 years, played a bit, had like one 500 receiving yard season, but that was about it. And then he was on the Raiders for a little bit, had another 500 yarder, and then that was about it. And then this year he had 800 yards and 5 touchdowns and was a beast. And everybody knows I'm also going to talk about Evan Engram. He was in the Giants for forever, and then he signed with the Jags last year and had the best season of his life. He had a career high 766 yards this season, had 4 touchdowns, and caught 74% of his passes, which is crazy. He's one of the top free agents this offseason, and he says he wanted to stay in Jacksonville after his phenomenal season. He said it was his best season of his career, so I assume he'll re-sign with the Jags if he wants to stay, and he had a great season there. If you remember, I'm an unbiased Lions fan. You'd probably know that my favorite Jag is Marvin Jones Jr. Another great season from him, 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, nothing like too crazy, but he's just a solid wide receiver and he can make plays. You saw the one-handed catches he made this season and that he's made in his past. He's crazy. Jones has the sticky gloves. And remember me talking about Trevor Lawrence having a low sack count. The offensive line for the Jags has really improved. They led in the 9th lowest sacks in the league. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they try to go someone in the 3rd round or 2nd round, someone for the offensive line just to strengthen it up a little bit more. Now, depending on what the Jags do with their free agents, they might want to go defense early in the draft or just go defense regardless. They did rank 14th in points per game allowed, which is right in the middle of the league, which is a solid defense. Their defense kept them in the Chiefs game. If they don't re-sign Engram, they'll definitely need a new tight end, and they're probably looking at center backs. They might go Ringo in the 1st round. Moving to the defensive side of things, Foyesade Alukin, linebacker for the Jags, was phenomenal. He played at Yale and then he was drafted by the Falcons, and in 2021 he led the NFL in tackles, and then he did it again last year when he signed with the Jags. Before last season, he signed a 3-year, $45 million contract with the Jags. So the Jags have a solid linebacker with them. He only had 2 sacks, but 184 tackles is crazy. I think second in tackles for the Jags only had 116. It's like a 70 tackle difference. And not only is he just a phenomenal player, he sounds like a well-rounded guy. Apparently, every bye week he has, he goes back to his former school, Yale, and hangs out with his coaches and squad. That's just amazing. And the Jags defense really stepped up at the end of the season. You saw them shut down the Chargers in the second half of their wild card game when they ended up winning the playoff game, which was fantastic. And you saw them against the Chiefs, keeping them in that game all the way until the end. They only gave up 3 points in the second half against the Chargers, and they gave up 10 points against the Chiefs in the second half. And they played the Chiefs well earlier in the season when their team was still finding ways to play well together. They're still figuring things out, and they still played the Chiefs well early in the season. I bet a ton of Jags fans have heard though, oh well, it was only close because Mahomes was hurt. I don't buy it. Mahomes is something else. He's 100% always. The Jags stayed in that game because they were a good team, but the Chiefs are just the better team at the end of the day, so they won. And of course, Lawrence was subject to another turnover that wasn't his fault when Agnew fumbled the ball in the red zone. But in the final 5 games of the regular season, the Jacksonville defense stepped up like crazy, and that's why they're so strong against the Chargers, because they had been playing well. They kept the momentum. In the final 5 games of the season, they had 11 turnovers, 3 defensive scores, and led the league in pressures. And don't forget, the Jags beat the Titans twice in the final 5 games of the season to win the division. They had a final game to see who wins the division, and they won. They had to win out, and they did, which is just phenomenal. Bring your team together like that and win out and make the playoffs. Well done, Jags. Recapping the season overall, you're going to see how much of an impact Doug Pederson and the new staff has had on this team. It's a totally different team than last year. They've improved so much, and I cannot wait to see more from the Jags. I hope Lawrence continues to improve, Etienne continues to improve, everyone continues to improve, and they make some good draft picks. The main things I'd say about the draft is definitely defense. I know their defense stepped up a lot, but they really don't have that many sacks. Like, I was looking at the sacks. I think their highest player had 4.5 sacks. Not that many, and they also definitely need the corners. So if they can draft some good corners and get some pressures on the quarterback and maybe take him down instead of just pressures, the Jags will be in good shape. I'm excited to watch the Jags next season. I think they'll make the playoffs again. If they keep these weapons around Trevor Lawrence keeps performing. They continue to at least maintain a solid offensive line, maybe improve the defense a little bit. They'll be good. They have a great environment, it seems like, with Doug Pederson, as I said before. They came down from the Chargers 24-0. Come on. They have faith in their team, and they don't back down. So I think the Jags will be a team to beat in upcoming years. They'll probably win the division again, unless the Titans make some insane change and draft a new quarterback, because that's what they desperately need. So we'll see. But anyway, that's going to be the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed my content, I'd really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching.